I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Jake, and I've been married to Amanda for 7 years. Our relationship started off like a fairy tale, puppy love, late-night talks, and dreams of a future together. We bought a house, adopted a dog, and seemed to be settling into what I thought was the perfect life. But things started to change. Around 6 months ago, I noticed Amanda becoming distant. Little things at first, like her being less interested in our weekend hikes and her sudden obsession with her phone. She'd spend hours scrolling through it, often giggling at something I couldn't see. I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just caught up in social media, but as time went on, the changes became more pronounced. She started going out more, claiming she needed girl time. I encouraged her, wanting her to have a life outside of our marriage, but something didn't sit right with me. Another thing that struck me was her late nights at work. Amanda had always been dedicated to her job, but lately, her work hours seemed to stretch into the early morning. I didn't want to seem overly suspicious, so I kept my mouth shut. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I chalked it up to stress or possibly a midlife crisis. One Wednesday night, I was fixing dinner when I got a text from Amanda saying she'd be home late. I thought nothing of it, but then I remembered she'd left her laptop open on the kitchen table. I walked over, intending to close it, but when I glanced at the screen, my heart dropped. There it was, a string of messages between Amanda and someone named Mark. My hands shook as I clicked to open the thread, and there it was, clear as day, flirty messages, heart emojis, and a plan to meet up. My stomach twisted into knots. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the gut. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I quickly shut the laptop, my mind racing. I wanted to scream, to cry, to confront her right then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I decided to wait for Amanda to get home, my heart pounding in my chest. When she walked in later that night, her laughter filled the room, but I felt like I was in a completely different world. I had thought about how I would confront her, what I'd say, but when I saw her, all those plans flew out the window. The anger bubbled up inside me, but I wanted to hear her side first. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey Amanda, can we talk?" She stopped, her smile fading slightly. "Sure, what's up?" Sitting down at the kitchen table, I looked her in the eye. "I found some messages on your laptop." Her face went pale for a split second, but she quickly masked it with a defensive tone. "What messages?" I could feel my heart racing. "The ones with Mark. You think I wouldn't notice? You've been lying to me." Her reaction was what I expected, a mixture of defensiveness and denial. "Jake, you're misunderstanding everything. Mark is just a friend, nothing more." I felt my anger bubbling over. A friend? Seriously? Because it sure sounded like more than that. The conversation devolved into a back-and-forth of accusations and excuses. She claimed I was being paranoid, that I'd misread the situation. But deep down, I knew the truth. The lies hung in the air like a thick fog, and all I could feel was a sense of betrayal so deep it stung. I was devastated. Despite her protests, I could see the guilt in her eyes. I knew I had to process this emotionally. The anger morphed into unbearable sadness. I had trusted her, believed in us, and now it felt like all of that was crumbling around me. I spent the night tossing and turning, replaying every moment of our marriage in my mind. The laughter, the love, the shared dreams, all tainted now by her infidelity. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the dark, contemplating the future of our marriage. What should I do? Should I confront the other guy? Should I try to work through this? Or was it time to consider separation? I needed clarity. And most importantly, I needed to decide what was best for me moving forward. This was just the beginning of a long and painful journey, but I was determined to find a resolution. The days that followed the confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. Amanda tried to act normal, but I could see the cracks in her facade. She threw herself into her work, coming home later and later, and when she was home, it was filled with awkward silences. The house felt like a cold battleground, and I was both the soldier and the casualty. I tried to keep my cool, but inside I was a storm of anger and betrayal. Every time I saw her pick up her phone, my heart raced. I couldn't shake the thought that she might still be contacting Mark. It felt like I was living in a suspense movie, waiting for the next twist to unfold. However, something shifted in me. I realized that I needed to take control of the narrative and not let Amanda dictate my emotions any longer. I began to gather evidence, a plan forming in my mind. If she thought she could pull the wool over my eyes, she was sorely mistaken. I started by paying closer attention to her routines, what she wore, how she styled her hair, the times she left and returned home. I made it a point to be more observant and less emotionally reactive. I also began to document everything: her late nights, the messages I'd seen, and every excuse she made. A friend of mine had once told me that sometimes you have to play the game to win it, and I was going to play it well. One evening, I found myself at the local bar, drowning my sorrows. I ran into an old buddy, Alex, who quickly picked up on my mood. After a few drinks, I vented. "Dude, my wife is cheating on me. Can you believe that? I found texts and she still denies it." Alex shook his head sympathetically. "I'm sorry, man, that's rough, but don't let her get away with it. You deserve better." His words hit home. I didn't want to be the guy who stood by while his wife disrespected him. I wanted to take action. That night I made a decision: I would catch Amanda in the act. The following weeks were spent plotting. I arranged to take a few days off from work under the guise of needing a break. I wanted to be ready when the moment came. I figured if she thought I was out of town, she might let her guard down. On the day of my plan, I pretended to leave work trip, but instead I parked my car a couple of blocks away and returned home. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I tiptoed through our house, which felt oddly foreign at that moment. I waited in silence, heart pounding, wondering if I was crazy for doing this. What if I didn't find anything? Would I regret it? But then I remembered the hurt she'd caused me, and I pushed those doubts aside. Hours passed, and I began to think it was all for nothing. Maybe she wouldn't have any plans after all. But just as I was about to give up and go out for a walk, I heard the unmistakable sound of laughter. It was light and carefree, nothing like the tension that had filled our home for weeks. My heart sank. I moved quietly toward the living room and peered through the crack in the door. What I saw made my heart stop. There was Amanda, and she wasn't alone. Mark was there, sitting on our couch, and they were sharing a bottle of wine. The sight was gut-wrenching. They were too comfortable, too relaxed. I watched as Amanda leaned closer to him, her laughter ringing in my ears like a siren. The betrayal felt fresh and raw all over again. I wanted to kick the door in and scream at them both, but I knew I had to stay composed. Instead, I grabbed my phone and began recording. I wanted evidence, something concrete that I could throw in her face later. This was going to be my moment of clarity, a way to show her that her lies would no longer work on me. I don't know how long I stood there, but it felt like an eternity as I captured their conversation. They reminisced about their fun times together, the kind of intimate details that cut like a knife. My heart was racing, my hands trembling. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal while they lived in blissful ignorance. Then something happened that sent me over the edge. Mark leaned in closer and whispered something in Amanda's ear. She giggled, and I could see her blush. It was a look I had shared with her many times, one that spoke volumes about intimacy and trust. In that moment, it hit me hard. She'd crossed a line I could ignore. I needed to confront them both, but I had to choose my moment wisely. This was my marriage we were talking about. I still loved Amanda despite everything, and I wanted to handle this with the gravity it deserved. I quietly left my hiding spot, my heart still racing. I had a plan in mind for when I'd confront them, and it would be nothing short of explosive. The moment of confrontation was looming, and I was ready to unleash everything I had been holding in. The confrontation was unavoidable, and as I paced back and forth in my mind, I rehearsed what I would say. I knew I had to approach this with a calm demeanor, even though I was anything but calm inside. I had recorded enough material to confront Amanda and Mark, not just with accusations but with undeniable proof. After what felt like an eternity, I decided it was time to act. I walked back to the house, my mind racing. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, fully prepared for the chaos that was about to unfold. As soon as I walked into the living room, the laughter stopped. Amanda turned, her eyes widening. In shock, Mark was still sitting there, a glass of wine in hand, and his face morphed from surprise to something I couldn't quite read, fear perhaps. "Jake, you're home early. Amanda exclaimed, but there was a nervousness in her voice that I hadn't heard before. Yeah, I guess I decided to surprise you, I said flatly, my gaze locked onto Mark. Looks like I caught you two having a good time. Mark stood up, looking awkward and vulnerable. Hey man, this isn't what it looks like. I cut him off, feeling my anger rising. Really? Because it looks exactly like you're cozying up to my wife on my couch while I'm supposed to be out of town. Amanda's expression shifted from shock to anger. Jake, you don't understand. It's not what you think. I pulled out my phone and pressed play on the recording I had taken earlier. Their laughter filled the room, and I could see the color drain from Amanda's face as she listened to her own words, the intimate details of their rendezvous echoing back to her. Tell me, Amanda, what exactly was not what it looks like? I asked, my voice steady even though my insides were churning. I was just being friendly, you've been distant and I needed someone to talk to. She shot back, her defensive tone only making my anger flare more. Friendly? I spat out. This is not friendship, Amanda. This is betrayal. You've been lying to my face while I trusted you implicitly. Mark stood there looking increasingly uncomfortable, and I could see him shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I turned to him. And you, Mark? Do you have any decency at all? You knew I was married and you still pursued her. Dude, I didn't mean for this to happen. He stammered, his eyes darting between Amanda and me. We were just hanging out, it was innocent. At that moment, I couldn't contain my anger any longer. Innocent? Are you kidding me? You've crossed a line, both of you. You've disrespected our marriage, and for what? A few laughs and cheap thrills. Amanda opened her mouth to protest, but I raised my hand. No. You don't get to deflect this. You made a choice, and now you need to own it. The room was thick with tension. I could feel it pressing down on all of us, but I was resolute. I had come here for a reason, and I wasn't backing down. I want the truth, Amanda. How long has this been going on? Her face twisted in an expression that was a mix of guilt and defiance. Just a few months, but it doesn't mean anything. We're not in love. Doesn't mean anything. I echoed her words, incredulous. You think that makes it any better? The emotional affair, the lying. It's all the same. Jake, please, she pleaded, tears beginning to form in her eyes. I messed up. I didn't want to hurt you. It's just been so hard between us. Hard for you. Try being the one who's been betrayed, Amanda. You think this is easy for me to watch, for me to hear you talk about your love for someone else. Mark shifted uncomfortably again, and I pointed a finger at him. And you need to get out of my house. He glanced at Amanda, who looked like she was about to break down completely. I'm sorry. And I didn't mean for this to go this far. I'll leave. Good, I said, my voice cold. As he walked out, I turned back to Amanda, my heart pounding. What do you want me to do, Amanda? I can't just pretend this didn't happen. She took a step towards me, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Jake. I was stupid. I didn't think it would go this far. I just wanted someone to listen to me. I felt my heart breaking for her even as I struggled to keep my own anger in check. But you didn't come to me. You didn't try to fix our marriage. You chose to betray me instead. I know, and I regret it so much. Please just give me a chance to fix this. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that I couldn't trust her anymore, but a part of me still loved her. I felt conflicted, torn between my anger and the history we shared. Let's take some time apart. I need to think. Amanda nodded, her expression filled with desperation. I understand. Just please don't give up on us. As she turned away, I felt like I was losing my grip on everything I had believed in. I didn't want to give up on our marriage, but could I ever truly trust her again? The emotional whirlwind left me feeling drained. I needed to process everything that had happened and figure out what my next steps would be. The days that followed our confrontation felt like a blur. I was in a constant haze, vacillating between anger, sadness, and confusion. Amanda moved out into the guest room, and our house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt desolate and cold. I had thrown out everything we had built, but I was also battling the remnants of love that I still felt for her. I spent my days at work in a fog, going through the motions but feeling like a ghost of myself. I knew my coworkers were worried about me, but I couldn't bring myself to share what was happening. Instead, I put on a brave face, even as my heart and mind wrestled with the betrayal I had endured. At night, I would sit in silence, scrolling through the videos I had recorded. I replayed Amanda's laughter with Mark, the way she had leaned into him, the intimacy that should have been ours. Each time I watched, the hurt felt fresh, raw, and unbearable. I felt a mix of anger toward her and toward myself for allowing this to happen. Could I have done something differently? Had I missed the signs? In the midst of my emotional turmoil, I found solace in talking to my buddy Alex. He encouraged me to focus on myself, to rediscover who I was outside of my relationship. "You need to take back control of your life, man," he said one evening over drinks. "You can't just wallow in this. You have to decide what you want moving forward." His words resonated with me. I realized that I had been so consumed by Amanda's actions that I had neglected my own needs and feelings. I started hitting the gym again, pushing my body as a way to release all the pent-up emotions. The physical exertion felt good, and for the first time in a while, I began to feel a flicker of clarity. As the weeks went by, Amanda reached out frequently, pleading for us to talk, for us to find a way to work through this mess together. I ignored most of her messages initially, but eventually, after a couple of weeks, I felt the urge to hear her out. I agreed to meet her for coffee with a heavy heart. Sitting across from her in the cafe, I noticed how worn she looked. The spark in her eyes had dimmed. "Jake, I've missed you so much," she began, her voice trembling. "I hate what I did to us. I'm so sorry." "I know you're sorry, Amanda, but I need to understand why," I replied, trying to keep my tone calm despite the anger simmering just below the surface. "You could have come to me with your problems. Why did you choose to cheat?" "I felt alone," she confessed, tears welling up in her eyes. "I thought we were drifting apart and I was scared. I thought I could find comfort with Mark, but I was wrong. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why didn't you talk to me?" I pressed. "I would have listened. We could have worked on our issues together. I was too ashamed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to put that burden on you." I could see the regret written all over her face, but a part of me wanted to yell. "But you did put that burden on me. This is what you've done to us." Our conversation continued, circling around the same points, each of us struggling to find clarity. Eventually, I asked her the question that had been plaguing me since I had found out about her affair. "Do you still have feelings for Mark?" She hesitated, and in that moment I felt my heart drop. "I care about him, but I love you, Jake. You're my husband. I want to fix this. I want us back." The sincerity in her voice tugged at my heartstrings, but I needed to be cautious. The hurt she caused still loomed large in my mind, and I wasn't ready to forgive and forget. "I don't know if I can trust you again, Amanda. It's not just about love, it's about trust. You broke that." "I understand," she said, her expression earnest. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to regain your trust. I'll even go to counseling if that's what it takes." Her willingness to seek help surprised me, but I still felt hesitant. "It's going to take time. I need to process everything. I can't just jump back into things as if nothing happened." "I get that," she replied softly. "I'm here whenever you're ready. I'll wait." Leaving the cafe, I felt a mixture of confusion and relief. I didn't know what the future held for us. I still loved her, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. Deciding what to do next was exhausting. I needed to reflect, to think about what I valued most in my life. While I was determined to either fix our marriage or move on, I knew this wasn't something I could rush. I would need to weigh my options carefully. Love and trust were fragile, and I didn't want to make a decision I would regret. In the midst of this turmoil, I began to seek advice from a therapist. It was a difficult step, but one I felt I had to take. I wanted to navigate this journey with clarity and understanding, not just for myself, but also for Amanda and the future we could potentially have together. I needed to figure out if I could forgive, if we could rebuild what had been broken, or if it was time to close that chapter of my life for good. Therapy turned out to be a revelation for me. It became a safe space where I could voice my feelings without judgment, a chance to dissect the layers of pain and confusion that had built up inside me. My therapist, Lisa, encouraged me to explore not only my feelings about Amanda's betrayal, but also my own role in our relationship. "How did you feel about your marriage before you discovered the affair?" she asked during one of our sessions. I thought about it for a moment. "I thought we were happy, or at least I wanted to believe we were. I thought love was enough." Lisa nodded. "Love is often underestimated, but it requires work and communication to flourish." You and Amanda may have been drifting apart without realizing it, an emotional disconnect that can lead to infidelity. Her words struck a chord. I had been so focused on Amanda's betrayal that I hadn't examined our relationship as a whole. I started to realize that while Amanda's actions were certainly wrong, we had both contributed to a growing distance between us. As I continued to attend therapy, I also encouraged Amanda to join me for couples counseling. After some initial hesitation, she agreed. I saw a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the way to rebuild our connection. In our first couples session with Lisa, I felt a mixture of fear and vulnerability. Amanda was visibly anxious, but I could see determination in her eyes. I want to start by discussing the reasons behind your affair, Lisa said, guiding the conversation. Amanda, can you explain what led you to that point? Amanda took a deep breath, once again revisiting the emotions she had felt during that time. I felt so alone, and I didn't know how to talk to Jake about it. I thought I could find comfort elsewhere. It was a stupid decision, and I hate that I hurt him. I could see the remorse on her face. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I had to give her credit for taking this step. As our sessions progressed, we navigated through the pain, anger, and regret. Each meeting uncovered layers of communication failures and unmet needs. Amanda shared her feelings of neglect, and I expressed my feelings of betrayal and abandonment. It was emotional, draining, and at times it felt like we were reopening old wounds, but it was necessary. There were moments of intense arguments, tears, and even moments of laughter as we recalled happy memories. It was cathartic, an emotional roller coaster that left us both exhausted but also gradually healing. One significant breakthrough came when I finally admitted how deeply her betrayal had impacted my self-worth. It makes me question everything, I said during one session, my voice trembling. Was I not enough? Did I fail you as a husband? Amanda broke down at my words. You were more than enough, Jake. I don't want you to feel that way. I made a terrible choice, but it had nothing to do with you. Hearing her vulnerability allowed me to see that she was genuinely remorseful. It didn't erase the pain, but it was a step toward rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. Over time, the sessions began to shift from blame to rebuilding. We started discussing ways to strengthen our relationship, setting aside dedicated time for each other, being open about our feelings, and rebuilding intimacy. It was a long road ahead, but I began to feel a glimmer of hope. As weeks turned into months, we made progress. I found myself laughing more, sharing small joys, and even considering moments of physical affection. It was challenging. I had to continuously remind myself that trust would take time to rebuild. However, the journey wasn't without setbacks. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a picture of Mark. He was with friends, and my heart raced. Memories flooded back. Amanda had talked about how Mark had been there for her during our rough patches. An irrational wave of anger surged within me. I confronted Amanda that night, and tensions flared. How can you expect me to move on when he's still so present in our lives? I shouted, my voice filled with frustration. Amanda's expression turned from confusion to sorrow. I can't change the past, Jake, but you have to trust me when I say that I only want you now. I'll do anything to prove that. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I needed to hear her commitment. I took a step back, closing my eyes and letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I want to trust you, but I need more time. I need you to understand that seeing him still affects me. I get that, she replied softly. I'm sorry, I'll do better. We're in this together, remember. The conversation lingered in the air, a reminder that healing wouldn't be linear. But for the first time, I felt like we were working as a team, not just individuals battling through the pain alone. As I continued to prioritize my own mental and emotional health, I began to see the potential for a future with Amanda. It wasn't going to be easy, and I knew we had a long road ahead, but I felt more equipped to face it now. I had learned so much about myself, about love, and about the importance of communication. I wanted to move forward, but I also understood that it might mean letting go of the past while embracing a renewed commitment to each other. The months rolled on, and as spring crept in, so did a new chapter for both Amanda and me. The work we had put into our marriage began to bear fruit, and I could feel the emotional fog lifting. We were attending couples therapy regularly, and each session seemed to chip away at the walls that had been built between us. We had both made a commitment to change, and it was refreshing to see the effort on both sides. Amanda was proactive about her feelings, opening up more than I had ever seen her do before. She would check in with me, asking how I was feeling and reminding me that my emotions mattered. In return, I worked on expressing my vulnerabilities without letting my anger cloud my judgment. One evening, while we cooked dinner together, Amanda turned to me with a smile. "I've been thinking we should take a short trip, something to help us reconnect like a fresh start." The idea felt both exhilarating and terrifying. "You mean just the two of us?" I asked, hopeful yet wary. "Yeah. Just like when we first started dating. A weekend getaway to the beach. What do you think?" I considered it for a moment. It had been so long since we'd had a carefree moment just enjoying each other's company. "I think it sounds amazing. We could use some time to relax and reconnect." So we planned a weekend escape to a cozy beach cottage. As we drove there, the tension in the car was palpable but not negative. It was filled with anticipation, a sense of hope for what lay ahead. We laughed at our old inside jokes, reminiscing about the early days of our relationship. Once we reached the cottage, we settled in and immediately felt the weight of life begin to lift. The soothing sound of the waves crashing against the shore was calming. We spent the next couple of days exploring the beach, cooking together, and rediscovering the joy of each other's presence. One afternoon, we took a long walk on the beach, the sand warm beneath our feet. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink, I felt a shift inside me. The moments we were creating felt genuine, and the anger and hurt that had once consumed me were slowly being replaced by a sense of renewal. "Jake, I know I've said this before, but I really am sorry," Amanda said, looking out at the waves. "I don't want to go back to the way things were. I want us to be better." "I believe you," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "I just want us to keep moving forward together, but it's going to take time and I'll need patience from both of us." She nodded, squeezing my hand tighter. "I'm ready to put in the work. I want you to know that you're the one I choose, and I'm committed to making this right." The honesty in her voice felt like a balm to my soul. In that moment, I realized that while the journey had been tumultuous, it had also brought us closer in ways I never expected. We had faced the darkest parts of our relationship and emerged more resilient. As we watched the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Yes, Amanda had hurt me deeply, but she was also willing to fight for our love. I didn't want to forget what had happened, but I was beginning to see it as a turning point rather than an end. Returning home, we incorporated new habits into our daily life. We established a check-in routine where we would sit down once a week to discuss our feelings, our challenges, and any concerns we had. It was liberating to have that open line of communication. We also made a point to prioritize our relationship by scheduling regular date nights, just like we had when we first started dating. It helped us reconnect in a way that had been lost over the years. Eventually, I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The emotional scars from Amanda's infidelity were still there, but they no longer defined our relationship. Instead, they became reminders of our resilience and our ability to overcome adversity. Reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized that I had grown in ways I never expected. I learned to prioritize my own mental health, to express my feelings without fear, and most importantly, to confront the difficult truths that life throws our way. If I could offer advice to anyone facing a similar situation, it would be this: confront the issues head-on. Allow yourself to feel the pain, but also recognize the power of forgiveness. It's a journey filled with ups and downs, but if both partners are committed to change and healing, there's always a possibility for renewal. As for Amanda and me, we're still navigating this new chapter. It's not perfect, and I know challenges may arise in the future, but I believe we're stronger now, more equipped to face whatever comes our way. And at the end of the day, I'm grateful for the chance we've taken to rebuild, not just our marriage but ourselves as individuals. It's a path of growth, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. With hope in our hearts and a renewed commitment to each other, we march forward, hand in hand, ready for whatever life brings. This is our story, one of love, betrayal, and ultimately redemption.